The Houston Texans win total coming in at 4.5 after they went 4-13 a year ago. I mean, we mentioned with the Colts, they brought in Marlon Mack. They brought in Jerry Hughes. They brought in Mario Addison. They also signed Kyle Allen at quarterback. Obviously, they traded away Deshaun Watson, and they were able to. Who did they draft? They drafted They drafted Derek Stingley. And how am I completely blanking on their second first-round pick?
It was Stingley, and of course I'll forget it too. It was I can look it up real quick.
No, no, you shouldn't have to. That should be my job. I just completely blanked out on who they took. Oh, Kenyon Green.
Yep, there you go.
15th overall. They also grabbed Jalen Petrie in the second round and John Mechie III in the second round early as well, before coming back and grabbing Christian Harris, linebacker, 75th overall. So, I mean, they had a ton of early picks, and it looks like they got guys who could be impact players. Like Stingley. I mean, Stingley could be an absolute monster and could improve this team significantly, but he's also a rookie cornerback who had great tape his freshman season and then struggled with injuries and had COVID years. There's explanations for it. I think Stingley could come in to be a stud right away if he's healthy and if he's given the proper coaching. And you would think Lovie Smith would be a good spot there. Of course, they obviously swapped coaches as well. You look at the Texans' schedule; they're 8-point dogs against the Colts. So I mean, you think the Colts win that game.
Yep, it's a tough first month.
Yeah, at the Broncos. At the Bears, home against the Chargers in week 4, and at the Jaguars before a week 6 bye. Are they 1-4 or 0-5, Sully?
I mean, best case scenario, you're looking at 2-3. At the very, very best case scenario, there beating the Bears.
Actually,
and the Jaguars.
They could beat Chicago and Jacksonville on the road.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I could see it more. I could see them beating the Bears more than I could see them beating the Jaguars, just because I think that the Chicago hasn't really surrounded Justin Fields with anything, and the Jaguars are surrounding Trevor Lawrence with a new coaching staff that we think is going to be much better, from Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson. They've spent big over the course of this offseason. They're getting Travis Etienne back, first-round pick last year.
I forgot to mention Etienne with the Jaguars. Good call.
So, I mean, going into the bye, you're feeling really good if you're at 2-3.
If you're at 2-3, if the Texans are at 2-3, you feel like you're winning this total.
I'm excited about Davis Mills. I thought he was, I obviously watched him, intently when they were playing the Patriots last year. He was balling out. He was taking it to the Patriots. And that was, kind of the first one where you open your eyes and say, okay, might be somebody that they can build around here, at least for the immediate, maybe not super long term, but somebody that you can experiment with over the next season or two.
Well, I think keeping Pep Hamilton was huge too, because you have this offensive coordinator who's had success, like he was with, just the quarterbacks that he's worked with have succeeded when he's been around to help them, prep and train and develop. And so that makes you think Davis Mills could be an above average quarterback in the league. They bring in Kenyon Green, so he's probably going to go. It depends on how things shake out, but I think he will compete with Titus Howard for the right tackle position. Although if I had to guess, Green and AJ Cann, who they signed in this offseason, will play the guard positions, Titus Howard at the right tackle and then Tunsil at the left tackle. Like, that's not a terrible offensive line.
No. And so if you look at it, like, let's just say best case scenario,
really hard, you can be like, this Texas offense could be pretty good.
Yeah, not terrible.
Not pretty good. Sorry, this Texas offense could be more intriguing than anyone's going to give them credit for.
Right, they could probably be the most surprising, just because the expectations aren't particularly, super high. But if you look at them 2-3 going into the bye, there are 2 more wins that you could see on the schedule. The Giants possibly, and then the Commanders later in the year. But right after, I mean, you still got the Raiders, the Titans, who, again, I think at that point in the season, still obviously going to be very much in the thick of things. Philadelphia, I mean, if you got to sweep the Jaguars, I think. I think that's really what it falls into. If you want to get 5 wins,
you got to sweep the Jaguars. That's right.
And one of the
you could also, I mean, now look, you could, I mean, it wouldn't be that crazy if Houston beat the Dolphins in Miami, or if they beat the Browns at home, especially if Deshaun Watson isn't playing.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to mention is we obviously don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson, but the fact that this is coming so late in the year, Cleveland, on their schedule, it does expose them to a loss. If they had Cleveland within the first 6 or first month of the season, you'd be like, okay, all right, well, maybe, if you get a 6-game suspension here or something like that, that's something that we've talked about potentially, just as a random guess for Deshaun Watson.
Right.
You're like, all right, but the further that game is later in the season, the more likely Deshaun Watson's going to be there, which again, if you're Deshaun Watson going up against the Texans, I think you're going to get his best punch.
Yes. If you get Deshaun, man, it's almost like they did that on purpose. Like Deshaun Watson revenge game after the suspension. Yeah, I think it's that Giants, Commanders, Dolphins, Browns stretch of 4 games in November and then early December that's going to decide whether they go over or under this total.
Yeah.
2 and 3 is kind out of the gate too, by the way, for a team. Like
extremely kind.
Yeah. And then at Raiders, Titans at home, Eagles at home. I mean, maybe you could win one of those. And so you're at 3 and 5. I'll give them the Giants win just to kind of be curious. I'll give them a 2-game win streak against the Giants and the Commanders. Actually, I guess that gets you to 5, doesn't it? Wow. If you beat the Bears, Jaguars, Giants, and the Commanders, you just have to find one more win after week 11. The problem is it's like Dolphins, Browns, maybe with Watson, Cowboys on the road, Chiefs at home, at the Titans, Jaguars. It basically comes out of that week 17 Jaguars.
You need to have one of your opponents for, like, I forget what week it was, but that random game against the Bills and the Jaguars last year where it was like 9 total points, and you just have to have a what is going on with Kansas City type of game. Like, what, Patrick Mahomes didn't do anything. Like, it just has to be one of those rare
Lovie Smith's defense is really just confused Patrick Mahomes today, guys. Didn't see that coming. Yeah, I mean, I think let me look and see on Caesars what the also never mind. So I asked a dumb question about Caesar's name. The Texans are over 4.5, just even juice. I mean, I wouldn't want to bet the under because I think the roster is improved on both sides of the ball, and there's enough chances where they could pull off wins here. But I wouldn't. I just staying away from this one. I think. I mean, you see it all the time where teams luck into 5 wins. Like, it's not that crazy for a team to go out there and they'll try hard for Lovey. I think they have some better players on defense. Again, they have an offense. If Davis Mills but you're basically like Jacksonville. You're banking on Davis Mills taking a fairly substantial step forward. The problem is, like, at least with Jacksonville, you can pin it on Urban Meyer and say this is a former number 1 overall pick who we all universally regarded as a top prospect who just needs to bounce back with improvement in coaching. Whereas Davis Mills sort of has status quo with Hamilton, but he also like Lovie Smith doesn't exactly inspire a high octane offense.
But you're also talking about, like you said, a first overall type of prospect,
right?
As opposed to a former 3rd round pick in Davis Mills. I mean, there's a reason why one went in the 1st and there was one that went in the 3rd. Again, they both could be great. It could happen, but you're asking a lot for a guy in Davis Mills to make that leap. As much as I'm excited to see what happens, it's going to be difficult for him.
Yeah, it's probably for me, it's a stay away until I see like the Texans, let's see the offseason to get some verifiable, positive information. Or again, like if Watson is suspended the whole year, I think that changes things because, you would have that opportunity against Cleveland. And, as you pointed out with the Jaguars and the Colts, like they get the Titans on December 24th, late in the year. It's possible that the Titans are very bad and that Malik Willis is playing there. And then that's a potential Texans win, it's possible the Colts are sitting everybody in week 18.
Right.
Like the Texans could win their final 3 games.
It's possible. I mean, I'm not taking that to the bank when
circumstances have to
you got to play the, not play the storyline, but you have to kind of play out the season in your mind and say, okay, this is how, if you think the Colts are a division favorite and you think that they're already locked up and they're in their playoff position, like you said, they could be resting everybody if a team like, if a team like Buffalo already has the number 1 seed locked up. They already have the
Colts are just locked into the 4th seed,
Yeah, you're just like, okay, we're gonna pack it in. Jonathan Taylor's gonna see 0 time on the field because he's ran 300 touches over the course of the season already. Yeah, that helps you a little bit.
Yeah, I think those final 3 games is what would steer me away from the under because there's a lot of stuff out of your control. Whereas, like, even if you lose the first 5 games of the season and you're 0-5 going into your bye, you could still beat the Giants, the Commanders, and then get Willis, beat the Jaguars at home. Not that crazy of an idea. And then like get the Colts, playing, all scrubs in week 18. So like that, you wouldn't feel like you made a bad bet on the under if that's how they get to week 16 and they're 2-13 or 2-12, right? Like you don't feel like you made a bad bet. Is that right? 2-12? No.
I also don't hate, again, I forget how long Caesars keeps up the season win totals, but like if it's still up there at the week 6 bye, and like you're saying, it is at a 0-5 or anything like that, that might be time to, see where that number
like
is.
3.5 over under, right? Because they've missed 2 of those possible wins. Yeah, that's a good point. I hit that with San Francisco last year where it was like 8.5 wins and they cruised over it, or maybe whatever it was.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Like the Texans get to week 6, 0-5, maybe their win total is 3.5, and you feel like, or 2.5, whatever it is, and you feel like there's a couple chances on here where you can steal something. I like that idea.